really excited for today because we are actually going to be demoing a drink from my book. Now, we're going to be doing these live streams every Monday, and of course, like the first couple of times, this is the second one. I'm going to be a little glitchy. There's going to be some technical difficulties, and you can feel free to like pop any comments, questions in the chat, and I will see them and stuff like that. But as we get along, hopefully I'll get better. And so each Monday is actually going to be something different. My hope was for Mocktail Monday is just because I know the non-alcoholic spirits industry, they're so different, and like there's just not, it's hard to navigate sometimes, like which non-alcoholic spirits to use in what way, because they're also different. Like one gin replacement is totally different than another gin replacement. And I also wanted to try recipes that other people are creating too. So you have the ability to request for things like that. Obviously, like priority requesting goes to Patreon members and stuff like that. But if you're in my Instagram broadcast channel, you can request in there too. And so we already have a request for making a non-alcoholic Saturn, and I got like a free spirits gin recently that we're going to test for that in the future. So I'm excited for whenever that happens. But today we're actually going to do a recipe from my book, Lunar Passion. Sorry, the light's glaring right there. So gorgeous. My husband helped me with this photo. And I thought that was like the perfect recipe for today because, first of all, we're coming up on Valentine's Day, right? The theme of love, romance, but also it's about to be the new moon on the 17th, the Lunar New Year as well, you know, entering the year of the fire horse. So I thought this recipe really touched on a bunch of the aspects of like, you know, the new moon, the lunar energy, but also that passionate energy. And so this drink recipe is really, and of course, like if you want to add alcohol to it, you can. You know, I do use non-alcoholic spirits as an optional ingredient in some of these. I tested that, so I'm sure you could substitute with the alcoholic equivalent. But this recipe is just like, it's coconut, it's grapefruit, a little bit of hibiscus. It has like a layered look to it that was hard to get on the photo here. You can kind of see a little bit of it, but it doesn't come across as intensely as it does, you'll probably see on camera today. And so I love it for a little bit of that like tropical flavor, refreshing, but also passionate lunar energy. So that's what we're going to be making today. But in the future, you know, if you have specific drinks that you want to request, if you're like, hey, I saw this recipe online, or I'm curious about this non-alcoholic spirit, you let me know. And then I can totally, you know, check that out. I'll give that a try and we'll figure it out together. And it's kind of fun. Hopefully this can expand into like a little greater detail in the future that we can kind of like have fun and go a little bit longer. But for right now, just starting out, we'll just kind of keep it like a little more streamlined. So let's see. Oh, and then starting on Thursday, we're going to be live streaming another drink day. It's going to be specifically a drink from my blog that has both cocktail and non-alcoholic mocktail options. So it'll be both of those no matter what side you're on, just to dive deeper into some of the recipes that I'm like revamping or revisiting and haven't touched in a while. So if there are no questions, I'm just excited to be here with you all and have this working finally. Hey babe, is it working? Okay, thank you. He's watching on Twitch. So it's good to know because I don't know what was going on that I couldn't go on Instagram and Facebook. It was just like going to take forever. So those just might have to go to the wayside. But let's go ahead and get started. So let me put some of this aside. I do have my notes because it's so easy for me to get lost. One thing I did really want to, oops, sorry, that hair is totally on that mic. I did want to mention, is we're doing a giveaway on Instagram for some of the brands I'm going to be using today. We're going to be using Beckett's non-alcoholic coconut rum. There is a different substitute for that. You know, you can use coconut water or something instead. I just tried it both ways. I do love their coconut rum. Like, it's super delicious. We're doing a giveaway of a couple of Beckett's products as well as for all the bitters, like their full set of bitter over on Instagram. That's ending on Friday. So if you want to like win a full set in addition to a signed copy of the book, you know, this is we'll get to use them today, and then you can go hopefully get some good luck and win that. But let's go ahead and get started here. Let's switch over to my demo screen. Pray to God that's working. Great. I'm like, I don't know what's working and not working anymore. The demo screen just gives you a little bit of like a more close-up version of the drink, shot of the drink than you can get like on the main camera. And okay, so actually I put this here and that was a lie because I just got ahead of myself and I got excited. We are gonna start by preparing a little rim on the drink. I especially think like for romantic drink recipes, there's nothing quite as magical as having a little bit of like a rim. Now, of course, you can do a salt rim if you want to lean more into the agave notes of this recipe. Today I'm actually, and that's what I did in the book, because I did Himalayan salt, a mixture of like hibiscus, a couple of dried edible floral ingredients, but I'm feeling like I kind of want to do a sugar mixture today because I'm feeling a little sweeter. So I'll show you how to do that. So I got a little plate there, and then what we're gonna do is I have like Brew Glitter sent me some rimming sugar a while ago. I have like a gold one that I used in a gladiator recipe we'll do some time together that I loved. But I love this because this actually matches like that pink color of the Himalayan salt that's in the recipe. Oh God, I'm so excited to taste this. I am a fiend for anything sweet. Okay. And then we're gonna add some dried floral. So since there's like a little bit of hibiscus in this drink recipe, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of like hibiscus in there. I love the way it looks. Like if we look at the photo, oops, let me pull this up here. If we look at the photo, you can you see? I don't know if you can see. Some of the floral elements. There's actually a little bit of blue lotus flower. Blue lotus flower was something like I bought because I was curious about playing around with it mixology wise. It's one of those things like butterfly pea flower, where it's like butterfly pea flower as a great visual effect on its own without other added ingredients. Its flavor is not that great, right? And so blue lotus, I found the same thing, is like it needs to be mixed with other things to really have a great flavor. So we're gonna go ahead and just drop a little bit of the blue lotus petals in here. Cool. We have this gorgeous little blend of like hibiscus and blue lotus flower. Let me put this aside. I'll use that later. And then what we're gonna do is, so usually when you're rimming a glass, I just wash this, so don't mind that it has like some like water on it. You know, you can take a little piece of citrus and like kind of like put it along the side, and that's gonna create an adhesion that which you can dip into your sugar mixture. But sometimes you'll see people do this if you want to get like one of those really cool side rims like in the photo. I'm just putting a little bit of honey, and you can kind of, I don't know if you can see there, you can kind of like paint with this, like this obviously isn't like a paintbrush, this is like a cooking, this is actually my husband's barbecue. I don't know if he knows that I use this for this, but now he does. So you can kind of like, you know, paint that across, and that's going to create like the sticky surface at which you can kind of drop the sugar on. Now you can also then dip this in. The problem with dipping is these sugar granules are so big that if I dip it, it's honestly like not gonna stick super well. So I find that dropping it when they're such big like sugar granules is usually better. Okay, and I'll show you this in a second. It's kind of hard because the camera sees the opposite side that I do. So hey babe, can you do me a favor and drop a comment on Twitch so I can just make sure the chat's working? Oh, you're on YouTube? Okay, can you do that on YouTube? It should work either way. Okay, perfect. I'm impressed by your username. Okay. There we go. And I want to get more of those like blue lotus petals in there. Make that really pretty. Oh my God. Perfect. Okay. Give that a look. See, pretty aesthetic. It's a little bit of like peach colored sugar instead of Himalayan salt. And I cannot wait to try that out later with a little bit of dried floral. So obviously you're gonna wanna use edible florals. You can use dried rose petals, you know, you can use chamomile, anything that you have that you kind of like the aesthetic of that has that floral aspect, because this is lunar passion, right? So it's drawing in some way. So you know, you can use whatever you want for that. And then of course you can do a salt rim instead of a sugar. But with that, we have our glass prepared, and now we can start making our drink. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna actually use agave. So one of the options for this drink recipe is to, it's kind of like you can use a non-alcoholic tequila substitute later on if you want. I'm not going to in this case. So kind of giving that tequila essence, agave nectar can help provide that. Also in magical practices, which is what we're all about here, right? This is witchcraft cocktails. It's in my book, and as well as like mystical mocktails and stuff like that too. So we're interested in a little bit of the metaphysical inspiration. And so agave is associated with Mars, the element of fire. It's like lust, love. There's a lot of great stuff that I talk about on my YouTube channel, and I think in the Bewitched Egg, more detail about, you know, the agave plant itself, coming from the Aztec myth of the goddess Mayahuel, of this goddess, you know, that was trying to be with her lover, and in this pursuit of passion, she ended up dying, and her lover buried her underground, and from her body sprung forth the agave or maguey plant, which is then used, you know, to ferment, but then also to produce tequila and mezcal. So I love the just sacred history of that plant. And so obviously this is non-alcoholic, and so incorporating agave through nectar is a really easy, gets that great agave flavor, and also taps into that magic, especially in a drink like this where we're talking about passion. I love it for that. And that Mars element rulership adds a little bit more of kind of that sensual energy in here. Now we can do a ½ ounce of that, but you can go all the way up to 3/4 if you want it a little sweeter. That's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm finding every day that my taste buds are different. If you don't know, I'm pregnant. So like one day something feels too sweet and the next day it's not sweet enough. So I don't know. I'm just gonna verge on the safety side and add a little more sweetness. Okay, next we're gonna add an ounce of grapefruit juice. This is freshly juiced. I just pre-juiced it ahead of today's session. I recommend using fresh citrus juice, so like not the stuff that you buy at the store that's pre-juiced, because that tends to have, it depends on where you get it. I will say like not every brand is equivalent, right? But a lot of times the stuff that you just buy that's in a bottle, not even refrigerated, it has like added ingredients that actually change the sour of these citruses. And then in the app, if that's the case, if that's what you're doing, just know that it might come off a little sweet, or however it is, you might need to readjust the balance of your drink recipe. And fresh just is a great experience. So grapefruit, I included particularly for positive energy. So grapefruit can be associated with like mood boosting. All citrus is clearing in some way, but particularly we want to get kind of the vibes right for Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day, whatever it is you're celebrating, right? So we're going to add an ounce of that. And then next you have a choice. So in this book, I know that non-alcoholic spirits are still such an evolving industry, so I wanted to give you options for both, like if you have access to them and if you don't. So if you don't have access to non-alcoholic spirits, you can do an ounce of coconut water, but I also really love the recipe with Beckett's non-alcoholic coconut rum. This was like one of the game-changing non-alcoholic spirits for me, because I put that in a non-alcoholic pina colada and I was like, wow, this like completely elevated it from what it was before without. And also they're, compared to a lot of non-alcoholic spirits you find on the market that tend to be like really expensive, like $40, right? And you're like, am I gonna make an investment in something that I don't know I'm gonna like, right? I've had a couple ones that I've tried that I didn't like, they were so bad, I returned them, which I've never done in my history as a bartender with any spirit that I've bought. So that was speaking to like how much non-alcoholic spirits, you really don't know what you're gonna get. So With Beckett's though, they have like these smaller bottles at a much more approachable price point. Like I think last I saw Total Wine was like 13 bucks, which is great because now I get to taste this, see how I feel about it before I make a full investment. And so that's why I ended up trying this guy out. And I was like, wow. After returning the other bottles of the other non-alcoholic spirit, I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about these. And then trying this one instead, delicious. Anyway, sorry. Like I said, if you want to win some of their bottles, let me open this. Oh, sorry about that squeaking. And so the reason why we're doing coconut here is because coconut is associated with the moon, right? And the theme of this recipe is lunar passionate. So we can think of like with the moon, inspiring romance and things like that, adding a little bit of that coconut to attune to that lunar energy and add some of those tropical qualities into the recipe. Okay. And then let's see here. Next is an ounce of lemon juice. Again, I just pre-juiced this. Lemon is also associated with the moon. Also, I just need citrus to balance out the agave. I don't have enough though, so I'm gonna have to squeeze a little bit here. Because grapefruit, while it is a little bit bitter, the adjustment's a little different when you add grapefruit just by itself. So we really want a little more citrus here, and lemon being associated with the moon is a great addition to the recipe. Ooh. Oh no. Hey, babe, can you get the lemon squeezer for me? Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. I don't have my citrus squeezer. We fight about it we don't fight about it, but like he uses it for kitchen stuff because he's the chef and I do the drink. So constantly going back and forth. Thank you. Okay. So we're gonna finish adding that in. And also when you think of like the new moon being a time of like new beginnings, right? And that's what we're kind of heading for. Having something like lemon that's not just, associated with the moon, but also cleansing and uplifting is going to be a really great addition here. Perfect. I just used a strainer to separate out the citrus pulp. And what's our next ingredient? A pinch of ground cinnamon. So I love cinnamon for adding a little bit more of that essential spice. It also does a cool trick that I'm going to show you at the end that you can like align to a little bit of like, let's say you're doing a date night and you want to do like a little secret spell and you got a candle burning on the table. Kind of a footnote in the recipe too. So we're gonna add a sprinkle of cinnamon just to heat things up a little bit. Of course, if you are someone who likes spice, you can always add spice to add a little bit more of that heat. But I love the warming qualities that cinnamon brings here. And then our next ingredient is an ounce of pineapple. We're just going for some of that, happiness energy of pineapple, that vibrant, tropical kind of flavors that we're going for. And then what we're going to do is if you want, you can add an ounce of a non-alcoholic tequila replacement such as a Ritual. I'm not going to do that right now because it's in the other room and I don't feel like getting it. So let's go ahead and we're just going to add some ice. And then we're gonna shake. And the problem with ADHD and pregnancy is I'm like losing something every second. I'm like, where did I just put that thing I had a minute ago? So, okay, let's give this a shake. We got our prepared glass here. Hopefully the shaking's not too loud on the mic. I have no idea. I'll find out later. And then we're just gonna add some ice. The thing with mocktails, I do want to say, is that compared to cocktails, mocktails have a little more water content, right? Because of what we're using in them. Whereas, in cocktails, they provide a lot more dilution to balance out the alcohol. And so one thing with mocktails is sometimes I find you just want to be mindful of how much you shake them, because especially a drink like this that we're putting over ice, you know, you don't want it to be too watery. Luckily, we're not using tea in this recipe. Gorgeous. Okay, you're like, well, Julia, where's the red that was in the picture? Well, we're gonna add that in. So what we're doing to top the drink recipe is we're adding an ounce of hibiscus. So one thing I love about a lot of the ingredients in this recipe is just how associated with joy they are in magical practices or, you know, metaphysics and whatnot. And hibiscus, again, I'm not like a health medical licensed practitioner. So like, you know, you do your own research. Don't take my word from it. But from when I was researching hibiscus, it actually lowers lowers blood pressure and stuff like that. So I think of like with the other added elements of like the grapefruit, you know, and pineapple and all these things, like this is just really great to like bring more of a happiness element to, you know, your night out or to like your date night or whatever it is. And so adding the hibiscus on top, because hibiscus is also associated with love, adds a little bit of that sensuality. We're doing an ounce of hibiscus tea here. And hibiscus tea is pretty strong, so, you know, we don't need to be too worried about the extra water content here. Just drop that on top. It creates a gorgeous layered effect that we can then also, for thinking of like the magic of like, you know, the sensuality of mixing two different energies together, alchemizing that. You can kind of stir it and blend it together. And it's just so gorgeous the way the color transforms. And now you can see why the picture looks the way it did. Is because, you know, once you mix them, although of course this had a lot more light shining on it in the photography. Now, what we can do is we can add a little, that blue lotus, if you have like a dried floral garnish that you really want to add on there, you can just kind of put that right there and it looks beautiful. And then kind of for each drink recipe in the book, I added an additional magical element. And once again, I'm having to find something. And so the additional magical element can be like a meditation. It could be a reflection. It could be like a little spell edition. And so this one, I wanted to do a little spell edition. So like, let's say, I can light things. I can use a match properly. You have this gorgeous drink, you know, a little layered effect. It's beautiful, stunning, non-alcoholic, which is great. And then what you can do is create resonance. So if you sprinkle a little bit of ground cinnamon over your candle flame, it will actually create a little bit of a spark. Now you do want to be careful because like you don't want to hurt yourself, so you keep your hand at a fireproof, fire safe distance, you know, and if you're not sure, like don't do it. But the great thing is that there's the cinnamon in the drink, right? And so adding the cinnamon above the flame, like let's say you have a candle lit for your date night, and you can like kind of like activate the energy of like, you think of like rekindling the flame. You know, it needs a little bit of fodder to rekindle, right? So you can go ahead and just sprinkle that above and you can see some of those sparks flying there. And just do that with intention, that activated cinnamon to bring a little bit of spark into like your date night. And just be careful again, because like those sparks fly up, it gets a little warm. And I am also like a seasoned mixologist, bartender. So like, you know, I know how to do these things, but like I don't want you to get hurt doing them at home. But let's give this a sip. Ooh, this is so pretty. Oh my God. See, I'm so happy I added that extra agave. Because yesterday when I was making it, I was like, it needs a little more. This is so good. Oh, one thing I wanted to try. If anyone's still here watching, I want you to vote because I need to choose which bitters to use. Now, in the recipe in the book, I didn't actually add bitters to the drink. And so it's just because, you know, But these are non-alcoholic bitters, so I do want to preface that. All the bitter is fantastic, and what's great about them is you can use them both your cocktails and your mocktails. So for someone like me that does both, it's a great option. But I wasn't sure to use whether like orange cardamom or lavender chamomile, right? So lavender chamomile might be like a little more relaxing, soothing. You just have that lavender floral component, which might meld well with particularly like the hibiscus. But then we have this bright orange, which is great for a little bit of the more of the uplifting energy, and then cardamom spice, which is great for romance. So I don't know if anyone wants to vote. You can just put which one you think is going to taste better, the orange or the lavender. So let me know. Give it a second here. And babe, if no one votes, you have to vote, okay? Ryan? Like when you're just starting off streaming, there's not a lot of people. It takes some time to get people over. So just give it another moment. Okay. Well, I'm feeling, let's do orange cardamom. And let's just see how that goes. So I've tasted it before, so let's taste it after. See, and that's like about 3-4 drops. Maybe I went a little heavy-handed there. This is a new bottle, so give it a stir. And let's test it and see how it turned out. Ooh, that's really good. That's really delicious. Let me add the lavender and see. Let's like do both. I am an absolute fiend for lavender bitters. So good. They both really work. Honestly, they both taste great in there. One thing I do want to do though is the cool thing about adding something like a floral garnish like this is you can actually drop your bitters on top to create an aromatic. And since lavender is really fragrant, I want to add it on top of the flower to add the aroma, like as I'm sipping, to get that lavender scent. That is so good. Okay, well, I don't know if anyone has any questions. Let me see here. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier as I figured out what in the world was going on with the streaming software. But what we're going to do is I'm going to eventually get the hang of it. So we'll start with like 1 drink a week. Not 1 drink a week. We're doing 1 mocktail on Monday, and then we're doing a drink recipe from my blog on Thursdays. And each stream we'll just do like 1 drink until we get like a little more comfortable with, or I get more comfortable with figuring out the tech stuff of the streaming element. So and then in the future we can go a bit longer and like have more fun and stuff like that. But it's just right now, I clearly don't know what I'm doing on the tech front. So thank you so much for joining me, everyone. And I hope you have like a lovely Lunar New Year and Valentine's Day. And I will see you on Thursday at the same time, a little earlier because I took longer at the tech issues. And we'll dive into the glamour potion from my blog. It's color changing, uses butterfly pea flower. So it'll be a fun one. It has both cocktail and mocktail options. And so we'll do that